try and help you. So things are happening, and it's happening slowly, and we are trying to get better with it. It's an ongoing process in our nation. So it's something that doesn't happen overnight. And if we can slowly build that awareness through education and through stories, we'll make progress.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask, this is mostly a Facebook group, has mostly been on Facebook. You have a Twitter page, but it looks like it's mostly used for kind of announcements in a way, kind of, a facing page. Obviously, that's deliberate, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the challenges of Facebook, the way Facebook works, and what it allows the group to do, but what limitations it may have as well.
So it has been really interesting with Facebook. We've broken Facebook a lot. And one of the biggest challenges we've had is people submitting posts and us getting through them, just because we purposely screen every post, and every post that we put out into our group has been read by multiple people. But it's not an easy process to do that, especially with how that queue is set up by Facebook, as well as, sometimes it's the influx of posts that we get that can be very challenging, especially when there's a massive event coming up, with the marches or elections, things like that. We can get thousands of posts per day. And being a secret group has been great because people feel like they know their audience a little bit more, but it does make it harder for people to find us. You have to know somebody to get in. So that's a few of our limitations with it.
So what are some of the stories that have really stayed with you? Obviously, you don't have to say any identifying information or anything, but is there any sort of general story that has really that you've really followed along with, or that has really moved you, or a particular type of story?
We have so many that have come through. One hit home for me that I remember, and it just I cried, which I normally don't. We had a woman of color candidate post her candidate story. She was running for a state seat in Iowa, and it was a really popular post. And then about 4 months later, she submits another post where she has this story about how her candidate post in our group allowed her to reunite with her father that had been missing for 15 years. That was just kind of one of those things where we were like, oh, wow. Some of the other stories that have challenged me or made me think about something I wouldn't have normally changed personally, where some stories have come through about women seeking, to get their tubes tied at an early age, because they knew when they were teenagers that they didn't want to have kids, and they were being denied at every turn for decades about that, and it was something I never thought of because I had always wanted kids. And so those had made me pause and realize that this is really unfair, and we should do something about that. Like, why don't we trust women when they say they don't want kids, but a man can go ahead and get a vasectomy and it's not a big deal? People are like, okay, sure, you don't want kids, you can have one. So another post that it kind of reinforced a lot of ideas for me is we recently had a member who has disabilities. She posted because she was denied a ride from a popular ride app. And the post itself hit me a little bit more and got me rethinking about this again because of a conversation I had with our director of community relations, Kimma. Kimma is a woman with disabilities, and she, a couple weeks prior to this post, had talked to me about how hard it was, especially early on after her accident, about being denied cabs. She would have to, go hide about that. So this member's story that had popped up fairly recently after that conversation was just another thing that it was another reminder, like, oh yeah, like it reinforced everything Kimma was saying. Not that I didn't believe Kimma. It was just another story of how, this happens, and this happens to people every day, and it was a way for me to kind of think about my own internalized ableism and how and what I can do to try and fight back on that. And then, we get some of these awesome posts around Pride Month and Loving Day where they show, pictures of their families and kids and everyone celebrating their right and legality to exist as a couple together. So
can you talk a little bit about, a lot of, obviously this comes out of people who were Hillary supporters and then, are sort of responding to that after. What is the political makeup of the group? Is it all Democrats? Is it mostly Democrats? Or is there a range? What does that actually look like within the group?
So we don't have hard numbers on those, but a lot of them are, I would say, Democrats or may identify as Democrats. We have a fair number of, independents. We do have some Republicans who are on the never Trump train. We've also had a few people who had voted for Trump who have got added somehow by somebody and stuck around and have changed their views on that because of it. So we don't deny anybody based on party affiliation. It's more of their behavior in the group that will determine whether or not they stay. Right? Because I think everyone should have a chance to learn. And if you're not causing any issues and you're just reading, you have the opportunity to learn. And you at least deserve that chance.
So if people want to be in the group, you need to have somebody who is in Pantsuit Nation to add you. Is that right?
That is correct. You have to know somebody in Pantsuit Nation to get into the group. And that has to do with Facebook settings. That can't be changed. So, However, there are other ways to follow us and get involved. You can follow us on Twitter. We do have a public Facebook page that you can follow us on. We have an Instagram account. All of those are Pantsuit Nation. We have a book that was published last year around May, and that is an anthology of a bunch of posts from people just prior to the election till about January-ish or so after the election. And my post is in there too. I am the only admin moderators who has a story in that book. So that's kind of fun. We also have a Medium page. We have a podcast, and we also have over 60 chapters. So you can look up your local chapter if you have one at pantsuitnation.org. There's a list of all of our chapters on there. We have them in the U.S. as well as a number of international ones as well.
What do the local chapters do? I've heard a lot about them from people who really enjoy being involved in them, but I'm not sure what they do.
So our local chapters have gotten together for marches. They've phone banked for people. Some of them have done charity events like the Period Project, where they gathered tampons and pads for homeless women's shelters. Our chapters have hosted luncheons and meetings, as just local solidarity to meet each other and to chat, as well as to do that with their local candidates so that they can speak and meet with them. So our chapters are a way to really focus on local issues within your state or within your city, as well as those local elections. As a national group, we try to focus on a lot of the national issues, but each, state or city has their own issues that they need to deal with or that are really important to them. So that's what our local chapters do. They focus on those issues. We really, encourage our members, and if you're not a member of the national group, to join, go ahead and join our local groups. And, if you don't have a local group nearby and want to start one, you can find out, and there's an email address on our website that you can email if you're interested in starting one yourself. So feel free to reach out if it's something you're interested in.
Do the local groups do a lot of in-person things as well? So the national group has been mostly online, I think. Is that right?
The local groups do more in-person stuff. They have done movie nights and book events. They've gotten together to, meet up locally to just talk about local politics or other issues or, books they're reading, things like that. So it is a way to get more face time with people as opposed to, hanging out online. Because they are local, it's easier to gather people. There really isn't a great space to gather 3.8 million people. So
if anyone out there listening has a space.
So yeah, as a national group, we really haven't been able to arrange a big national get together, but the local ones have. And they have often been able to do that. And they meet up with each other and, do marches and other things. So the local groups have been really great for more person-to-person interaction.
Well, my last question is, have you met Hillary Clinton?
I did.
You did? Oh, I'm so jealous.
She had come this past fall for a book signing. And so I met up with our outreach team leader, and she's the one who does all of the chapters. She's amazing. I don't know how she does it all. So I met up with her because she lives local to me, and we stood in line, and we got to meet her, and I had on my Pantsuit Nation shirt, and she, as soon as she saw it, she was like, oh, so good to meet you, and thank you so much. And we're like, thank you. Yeah. So I did get to meet her. It was really cool. And I have a book signed from her, so that's even better.
Hillary Clinton, if you're listening, come on the podcast.
Libby and Courtney were able to, they actually did a podcast interview with Hillary last year, I think. But it was really cool to have her on and listen to them. And I got to meet her more in person and chat a bit. We're all like, say hi to her for us.
Yeah, I heard, I believe I listened to that interview. It was really good. Highly recommended, listeners. Was there anything else you want to tell our listeners about Pantsuit Nation?
Come join and hang out and read. We all have so much to learn, and none of us are done with our education in what we know and what we don't know, and in examining our own personal biases. And I really hope that, you take the time to come and explore the group and read the stories and really think about how your privilege affects the way you live your life, and think about your life and how it could be different if you didn't have the privileges that you had, and what you can do and how you can use that privilege to make a change, to make this world a better place. That's really, really what, I personally hope we do. And I know the rest of the team does too. We can help amplify one story, change one person's life, then, a lot of it was all worth it, because it really only takes that one person to make a difference in the rest of the world, because they can go out and talk to other people.
Thanks for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off the album Elephant-Shaped Trees by the band Imunari, and we're using it with express permission of the band. Our logo and all original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and is done expressly for Two Broads Talking Politics. We can be found on our website at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com. You can reach us by email at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com, on Twitter at twobroadstalk, on Facebook and Instagram, and you can support us on patreon.com. You can find our podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and anywhere podcasts are found. If you are interested in advertising on Two Broads Talking Politics, please email us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com.